St. Peter is probably one of my favorite characters in all the scriptures because he teaches me so much about how to be a disciple of Christ. Specifically, he's often a good example of what not to do. Or quite often, Peter fails to do something that Jesus asks him to do, and thereby encouraging all of us to do the very thing that he fails to do. So think, for example, of the events just prior to and the events immediately after Jesus is arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. So just before Jesus is arrested, Peter is present with the other apostles at the Last Supper. And not only is he present, but he's rather vocal. He says a lot at the Last Supper. So you can say he's an active participant at the first Mass. That was just before Jesus' arrest. Skip ahead a little bit. Just after to Jesus' arrest in the garden, Peter is active again. He takes his sword out and starts swinging it away, trying his best to go down with a fight. But in between those two active moments, something interesting happens. Jesus makes this one request of Peter. He says, "Will you stay up and pray with me for an hour?" And guess what? Peter couldn't do it. He falls asleep. So in between Peter's active presence at the Last Supper and his violent activity in the Garden of Gethsemane, Peter fails to do the one thing that Christ asks of him, and that is to watch and to pray. And this is the very same request that Jesus makes of all of us in today's gospel. Watching and praying. It's not the most glamorous job. You won't get any renown for it. You won't become famous for it. It won't signal your virtue to the rest of the world. But it is the command of Christ, especially for those living in distressing times like we are today. So as we soldier on through this very difficult period in our own history, where there aren't really many opportunities for Peter-like activity anyways, let's just commit ourselves to fulfilling Christ's wish for us, to keep watch and to pray. Because after all, at the end of the day, Jesus doesn't necessarily need all of our activities and bright ideas, but he does require your heart and mine.